Ethan Caldwell had always believed that money could solve anything. Owner of a chain of upscale restaurants and several properties scattered across Chicago, he lived surrounded by comfort, security, and exclusivity. Every morning, he would wake up in his apartment high above the city, in a glass building that reflected the skyline, and he would gaze out over the city with the quiet pride of someone who had achieved everything he ever wanted. But there was one thing money had never been able to buy, and it haunted him more than any debt or business challenge ever could: his daughter Lily's joy. Lily was 8 years old, with light brown hair cascading in soft waves over her shoulders, and eyes that had once sparkled with curiosity and laughter. But a car accident, one that Ethan and his wife had lost control of that night, changed everything. His wife hadn't survived, and Lily had been left paralyzed from the waist down. Since then, the once lively apartment felt even larger, colder, as if the absence of sound had amplified the emptiness. Ethan spent fortunes on specialists, rehabilitation clinics, and imported robotic therapies, but nothing seemed to reach her. She drifted through her routine, accepting her wheelchair with resignation, her eyes often fixed on the void, while Ethan tried to fill the silence with talks about business and plans that didn't interest her. That autumn morning, Ethan parked in Logan Square, where he usually took Lily for physical therapy. Traffic was light, and the sun reflected off the narrow streets, bouncing on the cobblestones still wet from the previous night's rain. Lily, sitting beside him, watched the city with quiet attention, as if every detail were a painting only she could see. Ethan was busy with his phone, answering urgent emails, when the car suddenly broke down. The street was considered safe, but he sighed, aware that he would have to wait a few minutes for the tow truck. As the driver went off to get help, Lily's gaze drifted across the street, and something caught her attention. A boy, perhaps her age, sat on the curb, wearing worn clothes, his skin marked by the night's cold, focused on drawing with pieces of charcoal on the pavement. He would occasionally look up, offering a shy smile to Lily, and there was something about that smile that made her long, quiet heart beat a little faster. The boy, named Micah, was a familiar presence to Lily. She had peeked at him a few times before, marveling at his talent for creating small worlds with charcoal and scraps of old paper, always in the same spot, always attentive to passers-by, but never disturbing them. One day, she had secretly given him a piece of bread behind her father's back, and another day, he cracked a silly joke that made her laugh for the first time in months. The silent friendship, built through tiny gestures, was blossoming between them. At that moment, while the car remained immobile, Mike approached carefully, smiling, and offered Lily a simple gesture of freedom. "Want to take a walk?" he asked softly, extending his hand. "Just a little. I promise he'll bring you right back." Lily hesitated, glancing at her distracted father, but something stirred inside her, an old impulse that reminded her of days filled with movement, of laughter that used to fill the house, of sunlight streaming through the windows. For the first time in weeks, she felt an almost forbidden desire to accept. With surprising care for someone so small, Micah opened the car door and helped Lily out of her wheelchair. They crossed the street to a nearby vacant lot, surrounded by low trees and peeling walls, away from her father's gaze. Ethan finished the call that had distracted him and realized, too late, that Lily was no longer in the car. Panic seized him. He began calling her name, running down the street, each step echoing in his chest like an anxious drum. Then he heard a child's voice, hoarse but full of hope. "That's it. Lily, just one more step." And there, in that forgotten corner of the city, something began to happen. Lily leaned on Micah's hands, weak and unsteady but determined, and touched the ground with her feet for the first time in months. The wind lifted her hair. Her eyes shone with effort and surprise, and for a moment, Ethan froze, caught between fear and hope. Each step was a risk, each movement brimming with emotion. And yet, there, among dust and broken concrete, the girl rose, taking the first of many steps, laughing in a way that reminded everyone of a childhood once lost. Ethan felt his heart shatter and rebuild at the same time. It hadn't been doctors or expensive therapies that made this possible. It was a simple, human gesture from someone who had less than they did. Yet more than he could have ever imagined, Micah had something money could not buy. He held Lily's hands firmly yet gently, and for a moment, Ethan understood that there was a wisdom that came from simplicity, from genuine care, from seeing another without reservation. He walked slowly toward them, eyes wet, realizing that wealth did not lie in possessions, but in the ability to touch lives, to inspire courage, to let a small heart teach lessons too great for any sum of money. Micah hesitated, stepping back, perhaps expecting a scolding, but Ethan only looked at him with silent, deep gratitude. "Do you want to come with us?" he asked. The boy's eyes widened, surprised and delighted, and for a moment, the entire city seemed to hold its breath. That day, which had begun like any other autumn morning, became a turning point. Ethan, who had believed he possessed everything, realized he had found something more valuable than any fortune. And Lily, who hadn't felt joy in months, discovered that the world still held magic, that uncertain steps could bring wide smiles, and that hope could come from the most unexpected places. As they walked back to the car, the city seemed smaller, less intimidating, and every face they passed carried a story they didn't know. Ethan knew in his heart that this moment would not be forgotten, that this simple, quiet morning, with the wind blowing between buildings and leaves falling from the trees, had changed their lives forever. And that autumn afternoon in Logan Square, one lesson became clear: money buys comfort, security, luxury, but it cannot buy courage, hope, or true love. Sometimes it's enough to look closely, notice small gestures, and allow life to reveal its worth in the most unexpected ways. In the days that followed, Ethan and Lily's routine seemed the same, but something had changed. Lily began to look out the window with more attention, noticing every trace of life on the street, every shadow hiding little stories. She spoke little, but her eyes, once vacant, now reflected a quiet curiosity that Ethan barely dared to acknowledge. Micah remained present, appearing in her life with the same shyness as before, always bringing small acts of kindness that Ethan, no matter how busy, could not ignore. One day, he left a broken piece of chalk in her hand, with a simple drawing of trees and birds that seemed to dance on the cracked sidewalk. Lily smiled hesitantly, but genuinely, and Ethan realized something new was blooming. Micah was not just a poor boy trying to survive. He was a presence that reminded Lily of her own strength, of her ability to move, to try and fail and try again. They began meeting every afternoon, away from Ethan's watchful eyes, in forgotten little parks or vacant lots near the neighborhood streets. Micah pushed her slowly, spoke quietly about simple things, about the color of the sky, a cloud shaped like an animal, the way leaves dance in the wind. Every word was an invitation to freedom, every gesture a bridge between the girl's silence and the world she had abandoned. Ethan, in turn, began to notice small changes. Her body seemed more alert, more willing to respond. He observed from afar, often unnoticed, feeling a mix of pride and fear. He worried that his daughter might get hurt, that Micah wasn't capable of guiding her, but he also knew deep down that the boy was offering something no clinic could provide: full attention, infinite patience, and a simple faith in the child's potential. One day, Ethan decided to follow discreetly. He hid behind a tall tree, watching as Micah helped Lily rise on the uneven ground of a vacant lot. The girl wobbled, her feet touching the earth carefully, and with every step, Ethan's tension grew. He wanted to rush and intervene, but something inside him made him stay. It was as if a quiet voice whispered, "Let it happen. Let the world teach what you cannot buy." Step by step, laughing at little stumbles, Lily advanced. Ethan realized what had changed in his own view of the world. Micah had nothing, or almost nothing, and yet possessed more than he'd ever achieved with money, trust, courage, kindness. He held Lily's hands delicately, encouraging, never forcing, always patient. And Lily, for the first time since the accident, seemed to believe she could walk again, that she could try, that she could exist beyond the limits of the wheelchair. Afternoons continued this way, filled with small victories and shy laughter. Ethan began to see that his obsession with control and security, with instant results, had distanced him from what truly mattered. He had always believed he could buy happiness for his daughter, but he was learning that happiness cannot be purchased, that it must be shared, felt, lived through small, sincere, unexpected gestures. One day, a small storm began to form on the horizon, gray clouds slowly covering the sunlight. Micah, ever attentive, held Lily's hand firmly and said, "Let's try one last step before the rain. Just one. I promise it will be safe." She nodded, confident, And Ethan watched every movement, his heart racing, every fiber of his body tense. The tension wasn't only physical fear, it was emotional expectation, the weight of months of frustration and suppressed hope. And then it happened. With Micah's help, Lily rose completely onto her feet, an unstable balance, trembling but steady. The wind blew through her hair, and a broad smile appeared on her face, almost eclipsing the pain of past frustration. Ethan felt tears burn his eyes, a mixture of relief, pride, and emotion that no amount of money could ever produce. He ran across the lot not to intervene, but simply to witness, to be present. Lily's laughter echoed to the open space, mingling with the distant sound of traffic, the wind, and the scent of impending rain. She stumbled, fell, but Micah held her firmly, and they laughed together. Ethan observed, realizing that the scene was more than just his daughter taking a few steps. It was living proof that simplicity and genuine care can overcome any science, technique, or fortune. From that day forward, the relationship among the three changed. Micah began visiting Ethan's house discreetly, gradually adapting to the routine of family that had once believed it had everything, only to discover that true wealth lay in human connection. Lily ran to greet him every day, eager to show her small victories, and Ethan began to understand that the world he had built around himself of glass, steel, and security needed to be filled with warmth, attention, and genuine love. One particularly quiet afternoon, Ethan spoke with Micah for the first time without rush, without business, simply observing the boy carefully. "You've changed my daughter's life," he said. Micah looked at him, slightly nervous, but his eyes shone with honesty. "I just want to help," he replied simply, and Ethan felt that phrase carried more value than any fortune could offer. As they walked home, a fine, steady rain began to fall, covering the city in a layer of gray and the scent of wet earth. Lily ran through puddles, laughing, holding Micah's hand, while Ethan watched, realizing that in that moment, the entire world felt lighter, more genuine. He knew the road ahead would still be long, that falls and stumbles would come, but hope had finally been reborn. And that afternoon, between the concrete of the city and the gray sky, Ethan understood fully money buys comfort, but it does not buy courage. It buys luxury, but it does not teach kindness. It buys everything except what truly matters. Micah, with his simple gestures and generous heart, had given Ethan's daughter the most valuable gift of all, faith that she could try again, and that this time she might succeed. Weeks passed since that autumn day when Lily first stepped out of her wheelchair, and life in Chicago seemed to have found a new rhythm. Ethan's apartment, once silent and cold, now echoed with small laughs, shy conversations, and hesitant steps turning into confidence. Lily began to explore the space, walking slowly, holding either her father's or Micah's hands, laughing whenever she stumbled lightly and regained balance with effort. Each step was a victory, each smile a small celebration of life. Micah, in turn, felt increasingly at ease in this luxurious world that had once seemed distant. He delighted in the simple details. Ethan took for granted the smell of fresh bread from the kitchen, sunlight streaming through large windows, the warmth of a soft blanket. Yet even amidst comfort, he remained humble, curious, and attentive, teaching Ethan and Lily that kindness cannot be bought and that courage can come from the least expected places. One afternoon, Ethan decided to accompany Lily and Micah to the nearby park. The sun was low on the horizon, casting golden and orange tones across the city. He watched his daughter with a mix of pride and anxiety each step she took seemed to challenge her, to let go of the control she had always clung to. Lily, holding Micah's hand, advanced over the uneven grass, laughing as Micah encouraged her. "One more step, Lily. I'm right here. Just one more." The trust between them was tangible, a silent dance of patience and courage. Suddenly, Lily lost her balance. Her body tipped forward, and for a moment, Ethan felt the old fear grip his chest. But Micah held her hands firmly, stabilizing her, and they laughed together, relieved. Ethan observed the scene and realized that no matter how much he had tried, nothing his money or power could provide could recreate this. This was the strength of affection, of genuine attention, of someone's unwavering belief in another. Micah had given his daughter what he had never been able to buy, faith in herself. On the walk home, Ethan stayed close, each step accompanied by silent thoughts. He remembered countless nights spent on therapies, devices, and specialists, and compared them to this incredible simplicity that was finally awakening his daughter. A deep feeling settled in his chest, a mix of gratitude, humility, and learning. He knew this experience would forever change not only Lily's life, but also his own perception of the world. When they arrived home, Lily ran to her room, eager to show Ethan the new skills she had developed, with Micah following close behind, smiling shyly. Ethan watched them, feeling a wave of emotion that almost took his breath away. He approached, knelt beside Micah, and said, his voice choked with feeling, "You've changed our lives. We can never thank you enough." Micah looked at him hesitant, but with sincerity in his eyes. "I just wanted to help Lily. I wanted her to be able to try." Ethan smiled, wiping away a silent tear, realizing that simple sentence carried more value than anything he owned. In the months that followed, Ethan decided that Micah could no longer live on the streets. He offered the boy a place in his home, school, meals, everything a safe home could provide, but with freedom and respect. Like someone who had learned the most important lesson in life, true love cannot be imposed, it must be shared. Micah accepted timidly and soon adapted, learning to trust a world that had once seemed distant and hostile. Lily, excited, ran to the hallways of the house, confident in each step, while Micah followed, teaching and learning alongside her. Ethan finally understood the great lesson money could never teach. True wealth is found in the people around us, in silent generosity, in the simple gestures that transform lives. He had spent years trying to control the world around him, trying to buy happiness, but it took a boy with nothing to show him what truly mattered. One quiet evening, Ethan, Lily, and Micah sat in the living room, lit only by soft lights and the distant glow of the city. Lily held Micah's hands and smiled at her father. Ethan, watching them, felt that he finally understood wealth is not measured by what you possess, but by what you give, by what you share, and by what you allow to flourish. Ethan's heart felt light, his gaze sharper, his soul more open. And in that moment, Ethan realized that this story, which began with loss and frustration, had transformed into something eternal, proof that courage, faith, and genuine love can overcome any barrier, that life, even in the most unexpected places, can teach us the value of hope. He knew that every simple gesture, every shared smile, every hesitant step taken by Lily would leave deep and lasting marks, not just in their lives, but in the hearts of anyone who allowed themselves to witness the story. If you felt moved by Lily's courage, Micah's generosity, and Ethan's transformation, like this video. Share it with someone who believes in the power of small gestures, and leave a comment telling us which part touched your heart. Subscribe to the channel for more stories showing that sometimes true wealth is not in what we possess, but in what we give. And while the city outside continued its hurried routine, inside that apartment, 3 hearts beat in unison, united by what truly matters: faith, hope, and love.